Okay, so next is going to be getting a crew together. So again, like in the handouts, I have the crew creation cheat sheet, and I'm also going to go over the different crew types before we pick. I'm just going to go over all of them just so that way like you can hear all of them. I know we did say some we're not as interested in. So assassins, those are like killers for hire. So they execute like accidents, disappearances, murders, and ransoms. There are bravos, who are mercenaries and thugs. So they execute battles, extortion, sabotage, and smash and grabs. And then cult, acolytes of a forgotten god. So they execute more like artifact acquisitions, auguries, consecration, and sacrifices. So this is kind of the really weird one. There are hawkers, who are vice dealers. So they execute product procurement, covert sales, shows of force, and social events. Then there are shadows, thieves and spies. They execute burglaries, espionage, robberies, and sabotage. And then finally, smugglers, who are contraband transporters. They execute clandestine deliveries, territory control, and expeditions outside the city.
I think it will come as a shock to literally no one that hawkers who are interested in the social events and the items, that would be Mirena's personal pick. However, I think also shadows could be really fun for this character as well. But also, I'm cool with anything.
I was curious this time around, similar to Tess, I was drawn to both hawkers and shadows. I think either of those could be really fun and interesting.
I think we can definitely rule out assassins, bravos, and cult. I think those are just not kind of what our party seems to be interested in so far. I could be wrong, though.
So I did a similar thing of like making different playbooks for each crew to add in like their specific details, which were left out. So I'm going to make shadows and hawkers viewable, just so everyone can like look at those, especially hawkers, since that's one that you didn't go with. So like if you look at the special abilities in particular, I think that'll really just like give you an idea of a bit more of what these crew playbooks are about. So like hawkers has like a lot of stuff that is related to socializing and getting items.
I really, looking over the hawkers, I really feel like it feels like it's up the alley we're vaguely heading toward, but that's me. I'm curious other people's thoughts.
Yeah, I feel like going from shadows to hawkers is almost like going from burglary to white-collar crime.
We're moving up in the world, is what you're saying.
It's like we did, I don't know, I don't have a reference, but now we are moving on to Ocean's 8.
I like how there's a skill for the hawkers called Ghost Market, where we've figured out how to sell our products to ghosts and or demons.
Okay, but you left out the really fun part. They do not pay in coin. What do they pay with?
That's so the question, isn't it?
Yeah. So is that everyone's interested in hawkers?
I think so.
Sounds good to me.
I'd be into it.
Sorry, I had a brain like excitement moment where I discovered that one of the upgrades for hawkers is personal. I don't even know how to say that word out loud. Personal clothier.
Which one is that?
Personal wardrobe expert. It's
get you a tailor.
Yes, we can have a tailor on retainer.
Oh, are we gonna be like the Kingsmen?
Oh, that's not an upgrade. That's in the turf. So that's like
wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong section of the playbook, but yes,
just very well dressed spies.
Amazing.
I'm sorry for disrailing, Elliot. Please continue.
Oh no, this is great. I hadn't noticed that.
So I know we discussed this during the one shot where we were gonna. I feel like we're leaning once again towards the whimsical in terms of like tone. Are we comfortable with this, everybody? Like, does someone want like a more serious story, or like kind of a serious story with like some slight joking, or what are we going for?
I am all good with whimsy. I am all good with it being like a little tongue-in-cheek. I don't think Blades in the Dark is quite as edgelordy as Apocalypse World was, but I know we kind of played fast and loose with Apocalypse World because it's so just like grimdark edgelordy. And I feel like Blades in the Dark has elements of that, so I'm cool if we're like, we can be a little goofy with it.
All right, what I'm hearing is we're going full camp.
I mean,
so.
did you see how long my name was?
I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, so what is the reputation of
I
this
think
crew?
We're frivolous. Or at least, okay, rather, I think Nick's character and I are both frivolous. I don't know about the rest of everyone else.
That's fair. But as a group,
It could also be that like those two characters are just so frivolous that like that stands out and everyone assumes that's true of the whole group.
I think we are negligible but mighty.
I love that description.
I think that's the one.
No one knows us, but we talk a lot about it.
yeah.
Frivolous, negligible, but mighty. Cool. So then the next thing is a lair. So again, you're starting at tier 0 and your lair is most likely pretty modest or abandoned. Like some of the suggestions from the book are like half-sunken grotto and like the underground canals, abandoned watchtower, small abandoned house at the end of a lane. I found it funny that one of them is a junked rail car rustled in place on its old overgrown tracks. There's a lot of different suggestions. And then also part of that is picking where in the city it is. So I think before quickly like getting into that, I'm going to do a quick overview of the city. Again, there is a map in the handouts, which there's a lot of different districts. So these are very quick, fast and loose summaries. And there's always the reference. So there is White Crown, which is the northernmost one that's got the estates of the Lord Governor, Hunter Commander, Master Warden, and Duskvol Academy. That's the rich and powerful one. There's Brightstone, which has grand mansions and luxury shops of the wealthy elite. So that might be of interest to this particular group. There's Charter Hall, which is where the city's civic offices are, and also a hub for shops, artisans, and commerce. There's Six Towers, which used to be a rich district, but now it's a bit worn down and dilapidated, which sounds like that also might be kind of fitting this crew, possibly. There's Silk Shore, which is like the Red Lamp district and artist community. Night Market is the trade center for exotic goods, which come in on the railway. And a lot of vendors there also trade in illicit goods. So that also might be relevant. There's Crow's Foot, where we played for the one-shot. A cramped neighborhood of multi-level streets ruled by gangs. There's the Docks, rough taverns, tattoo parlors, fighting pits, and warehouses. Barrowcleft has residences and markets for farmers who work the fields and ealeries. Coleridge is the remnants of Duskvol's original hilltop mining settlement, and now it is home to laborers and industrial factories. Char Hollow is maze of tenements and squalid row houses, and then finally Dunslow is a labor camp served by convicts and a ghetto for the desolate poor.
I think it kind of ties into how Marmar is no longer... is Marmar still extremely wealthy as a princess? Or, like... Are they destitute now?
By definition for this game, we have to start with not a lot of coin.
Yeah.
So if she is wealthy, it's probably like trust fund wealthy, where like she'll get access to it at a certain point. So it's like she sees herself as very wealthy, but doesn't have any coin to speak of.
Or like all the wealth is just the ornamentation.
100%, yeah.
I was just going to say, nothing is liquid right now. Like
Exactly.
it's...
What if we were all on a ship from possibly like Aruvia, or perhaps this merchant ship was like coming around picking up a lot of people and bringing them to Akoros. But then the very drunk sea captain just like completely missed the lighthouse and like full ran into a cliff. And now the entirety of Marmar's like inheritance is like at the bottom of the ocean, and we're living out of the broken ship. I don't know. Just full spitballing here.
Tessa,
I mean, I love that idea.
I kind of love that too. Would that put us in like the docks? Question mark? Question mark? Question mark?
So
It's wherever the ship crashed, right?
Yeah.
if you look at the map, like this is kind of like Venice. There are a lot of waterways. Like some of them are a bit too narrow for, I think, like a big ship that might have been coming from Aruvia, but like it could probably fit in some of the larger rivers. So like charter hall might be out of the question because that's a bit too narrowed in. But I think a lot of these are options.
I think it could be interesting if our ship, which is a hilarious idea, was in like the Silk Shore area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say that's on the coast. It's like totally accessible from pseudo sunken ship. And it's an interesting place. You know, it's not quite as upscale as Brightstone, but it still feels like, you know, the Red Lamp / artist community still feels like it would be a good base of operations for this kind of crew.
Oh, yeah. And I think that could interestingly lead into like some further upgrades of like gear and like supplies of like, hey, maybe you took some time to like go scuba diving. I don't know, and try to get some of that stuff back.
Fish Marmar's treasure out of the ocean.
Which actually, Mirena, what's the name of this ship? Because like it's got to still have the name like in bright shiny colors on the side of it.
Oh, yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's the Moon's Crown.
Okay, so next for the crew is Hunting Grounds. This is where you usually target for your scores, and you know this area well. It doesn't have to be in the same district as your lair. And it's pretty small. It's only like a few city blocks, but another faction has already laid claim to it. You are intruding on their area and will have to pay up the chain. So I think like I'll also ask later what faction that is. But when I do ask anything about what faction, you don't have to know the specific ones. But if you have like an idea of like maybe like this kind of thing, I probably have a suggestion for it.
So I'm very sorry. I might derail us like a slight bit again, but I do. So I was thinking back to how this throwback to Apocalypse World, where we took over a metro car and it was called Troca because some of the lights faded out. And I was just like fully losing it because I was like, what if the same thing happened to the Moon Crown and it was the Moo Cow?
Oh my god, that's brilliant.
So I was just over here like fully dying.
Oh my god, Mirena would be so upset about that.
I was about to say that'd be the best part because Mirena and anyone who was on the ship would like know what the actual name was, but maybe everybody, you know, in Silkshore / Duskvol only knows it as the Moo Cow.
That's so good.
Since there aren't like the like electric lights, I'm assuming for the name, maybe that's been like scratched out, or like it's got like barnacles or something.
When it crashed on the cliff, like a huge chunk of the side of it was taken out, and so those are the letters that are left. Dex, I've never loved you more than I do at this moment.
Oh my god. The funny thing is that like in like the lore of Blades in the Dark, like cows aren't really a thing too much anymore. Like there's a lot of extinct animals. So like there's no horses, like carriages get pulled by goats. Like there are Elleries because a lot of like nutrition comes from like fish and fungi. So like Mukau is just like can also kind of be seen as like a frivolous, like wealthy thing.
I'm crying. I'm legit crying. I have tears.
All right, so we agreed that this is a completely serious, totally non-campy game, right?
Definitely extremely serious. We're down to business types.
This is a gritty, dark game. So yeah, where are your hunting grounds?
I think Brightstone feels like a good choice for that.
Yeah.
Like, I at least definitely want, like, I really want the wealth of that area. I'm like, feel like I belong in that area. Actually, I feel like I probably belong in the academy area, but, we'll shoot for Brightstone to start.
I just want to steal from the rich, so that feels like a good.
Yeah. I was going to ask, is there like a ferry system?
There are gondoliers.
Oh, okay. Yes, then definitely Brightstone. It's kind of far away, but I think that would be how you get. I was trying to figure out the like logistics of. I'm like, surely people from Brightstone also want to come to Silkshore sometimes, but like you have to go through Crowsfoot or Char Hollow unless you go by boat. Now it all makes sense.
The wealthier citizens will have like carriages that are drawn by goats, but like there are gondoliers who go through the city. And I think there's also like further upgrades. You can get a carriage or a boat for your lair.
Get a boat to tie to our boat.
So for these hunting grounds, is there like a particular like area, like kind of more of like a market, or like is there a particular like residential neighborhood that you like to hit up? This one is more like something you were inventing within this area.
Were any of us from Akaros?
Nope. Nobody is local.
Cool. Just thinking, like, is there anyone who has like a former boss or former lover or someone in the area who we like target their house?
I'm theorizing that my character's best friend is the prostitute, so I'm gonna have contact in that region.
Yeah, I don't know if a prostitute would necessarily be in like Brightstone, but like maybe over in like Silkshore.
But she also might, or they also might work in that area, like frequent a certain neighborhood.
Yeah, or like if they're particularly fancy, like a courtesan.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think Milos his family's not from Duskvol, but I think he's been here for maybe a little while, unless we really do want to do the like all of us are on the same ship, although even then maybe he took a journey away and was on his way back, but he, as a former academic, he might have some ins with the wealthy as a tutor or family connections of former students, that kind of thing.
I imagine I probably joined you guys halfway through. Like halfway abandoned posts kind of deal.
Yeah. So for these hunting grounds, is this like what are these like couple of blocks? Like are you, I think like people had talked about wanting to steal from the rich. Is this like a pretty residential area?
I think that feels right to me, but what other people think.
Maybe if it were a section that was residential and then kind of bordered up on some of the stores or other sort of businesses.
Yeah, to lean into like some of the turf.
Yeah, turf, and also maybe like I have a connection with an apothecary. So if that was in the same vicinity, I think that could also help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because this is literally just like the starting area, and then you gain more ground from there.
I do wonder also if like any of the noble, affluent people in the Akoros area know of like the tragedy of Marmar and have been like pity buying from us. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can see that.
I like that. Okay, so next is special ability. So the crew gets a special ability. Again, the top one is usually a good default, but there's a lot of good options.
I mean, there's always the ghost market.
There is one that I thought would be really helpful if we like want to?
Which one?
Oh, I was looking at high society if we're trying to like gain an in to somebody or somewhere.
I mean, yeah, that definitely fits with Mirena and the kind of whole aiming at the very upper echelons thing that we have going on.
Yeah, I was looking at high society, good stuff, or patron would have been the three that I would have leaned towards for this group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also saw the good stuff.
I think high society looks like a good one. If we're going to do that, I think that we should just like lean into it full bore.
Okay, marking off high society. Okay, so next there's the crew upgrades, which upgrades are valuable assets that help your crew in some way. So there are 2 pre-selected ones. So for Hawkers, you get resolve training and a secure layer. So like your layer has, or at least like 1 check mark on it to get like security. So you would need to put another upgrade into that to fully get it, but there is progress. So there's also descriptions in the Roll20. So you get 2 more. One faction helped you get an upgrade. They like you and you get +1 status with them. But if you pay 1 coin, you have 2 to start. To repay their kindness, you can get +2 status with them. And then one faction was screwed over when you got an upgrade. They don't like you and you take -2 status with them. But if you spend 1 coin to mollify them, take -1 status with them instead.
And how much coin are we starting with?
2. So I think like probably the best way would be to figure out what upgrades you want. And then like maybe this is another thing that we come back to after talking a bit more about factions.
I think given that right now Whitney's character feels like Whitney, what pronouns is your character using?
They, them.
Cool. I feel like they, as the Tinkerer, kind of feel like they're maybe not the most competent, but like definitely among the more competent. I would love to upgrade with a workshop. I think that could be really helpful.
Yeah, I feel like that makes sense as well.
Like, while part of me is like, a boat would be really nice, I don't think we're quite to a place where we have a boat yet. And I'm like, I think a workshop makes a lot of sense.
I think it would certainly help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like that gives you some assets and you may accomplish long-term projects with these assets without leaving your lair. I'm going to mark off workshop. So what is the other one?
In the description, it also says that it has a library, so I imagine that Nick's character could get some mileage out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's also the gray box for crew upgrades, which are the Hawker-specific ones. Just so those don't get lost.
Those are on the table? Okay.
Yes.
I mean, Hawker's rigging sounds like potentially narratively appropriate. We do have a ship with the potential for like lots of rope and such. So having an extra item concealed and on us makes sense. My other thought was maybe insight, given Rand's character, given the like PI of it all. I feel like insight would also track pretty logically there.
Yeah, I was also thinking about insight, but I agree that the rigging is nice. Nice to be able to carry extra stuff.
I think if we're going to be doing a lot of heists in the literal heist sense of stealing and sneaking, that maybe the rigging would be more beneficial to begin with.
I'm currently leaning a little towards insight, since I think we're planning on not doing as much stealing.
Yeah, that is more of a shadows thing.
Okay. Because I think we're doing the selling part of it. So someone's someone's stolen something and then we're selling it. Maybe with the fences. I don't know. But still, like, Hawker's rigging still seems very useful. So I'm like, I think I'm leaning like flavorfully towards like insight, but that's just my opinion.
And Bran, what are your thoughts, especially since the insight Tessa mentioned kind of leans into Ellery's background?
I don't have a strong preference there. I think we haven't gotten there yet, but I was gonna suggest, because of my character's background, possibly our contact could be the blue coat.
Mm. Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
So before we get there, do we want to pick the upgrade?
In which case, if we have that advantage, then we could. Then I was like leaning towards rigging a bit more. So I don't know. I give up my vote.
We're split all over the place.
Pretty split 50-50 on this.
Yeah.
So it sounds like then if we're going for LaRose, the blue coat as a contact, Hawker's rigging as the crew upgrade.
I think that sounds good. It's a nice...
that works.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. So the last part of crew is favorite contact. So this is a close friend, longtime ally, partner in crime. And then another thing we'll come back to is that one faction is also friendly with this contact, and you get +1 status with them. And then one faction is unfriendly with this contact, and you get -1 status with them. So is everybody interested in like LaRose, the blue coat?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So is this like somebody who's like just informing you and is still definitely working with the blue coats?
That sounds right. Maybe somebody that Ellery knows from her former work, and we just still slides this information from time to time.
Yeah, or either this is someone who is in cahoots with us, or he could be someone who I know is easily manipulated, that we could just use. We can decide that when we meet him.
Yeah. So I do have in the Roll20, there is a faction sheet which has the brief basics on all of the factions. There's a lot, and we definitely don't have to go into like all of them. There are a couple of main categories. You don't need to know like every single one of them, but you can see the general categories. So, like there's underworld factions. These are the factions that are more into crime. So this is kind of the section that your crew is at. Institutions are like citywide institutions, like the blue coats, the military, the city council. Labor and trade is pretty self-explanatory. Some of these factions are pretty powerful and have like some things you wouldn't expect. Like gondoliers are actually a good like contact for a whisper, because there's a lot of like ghost things that end up in the canals. People will dump bodies in there. So the gondoliers see some shit. There is also the fringe. So this has some of the weird, spooky stuff, and also the Church of the Ecstasy of the Flesh, which is like the state religion, but also has some stuff like the Cults of Forgotten Gods, or like the Scavlander refugees and Deathland scavengers. There is also technically the citizenry of a certain district can count as a faction. So like if you are all doing a bunch of business with the people of Brightstone in general, then that could easily be a faction that you have like a status with, because you are doing a lot of trade with them. So a lot of the factions that come up will tend to be ones in the underworld, and they all have their various like specialties, things they're interested in. Some are more focused in districts that you're not in and don't seem to really, like, you probably won't be doing much in Dunslow unless somebody has to go to prison. So there are a wide variety. So I just wanted to at least like fill everyone in on like what kind of factions there are.
Wait, so we are individually in different factions?
Your crew is kind of its own group. These are factions or like groups within the city that you're going to come into contact with.
So the idea is just that as we make our own moves, it will have a ripple effect in the city, and sometimes that ripple effect will be in our favor and sometimes it will be to our detriment.
Yeah, like all of these, you can see their tier and their status. Those are going to change. If you get into like a war with another faction, both of your tiers and holds are going to change. So you might see some factions get knocked down a few pegs. One might suddenly get really powerful.
So this is just kind of the chart of where everybody is at the start of things.
Yeah, at the start.
I'm extremely interested in the gondoliers.
Yeah, the gondoliers are cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Gondoliers or cabbies, like either one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you imagine the stuff they know?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but if we're talking secrets, the ciphers who give all of the secret messages across town and they swear an oath of secrecy, those people have the goss.
But then they wouldn't talk to us.
I mean,
everyone could be persuaded with something.
Not with that attitude.
How can they say no to a princess?
Yeah, like all the information that I put in there is like I kind of put the brief overview of them and then the names of like some of the notable members. Like there's more stuff in the book. Some of it is like spoilers with like a situation they're in, but that's kind of the briefest summary.
Cool. I was going to ask Elliot earlier, did you say we need to pick a faction that we're on good terms with and another one that we screwed over, or am I misremembering?
Yes. So for the crew upgrades, when you like one of the factions helped you get one of those upgrades, and then a faction was screwed over when you got an upgrade. And then the other one is your crew contact. So one faction is also friendly with this contact, and you get +1 status with them. And then one faction is unfriendly with this contact, which I think since they're a blue coat, LaRose is a blue coat, that would make sense that you get +1 status with the blue coats.
Yeah, as long as we think LaRose is still at least temporarily. Well, it says LaRose a blue coat, so yes, they are still a blue coat. So yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. So I have just added. You can see on status under blue coats, it is 1. Which is an interesting faction to start out with status, like positive status with.
On the good side of the cops.
For now.
For now.
I feel like the gondoliers or the cabbies would make sense for who helped us get the rigging. Because like being able to carry more narratively cabbies or having a way to travel with our extra load feels really appropriate. And I feel like the gondoliers are like, hey, we know how ships work. You can use these ropes to do this thing.
What if
I
we were
like
helped?
The gondoliers.
Yeah, I was like, what if we got helped by one of them, but the other one suffered because of it? So like the cabbies needed the same rigging, but we took it. Or something like that.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah. Okay, so +1 status with the gondoliers. -1 with the cabbies. So then one of the other things was one faction is also unfriendly with this contact. So who doesn't like LaRose? Which, as a blue coat, is going to be a lot of options.
Everyone?
Yeah.
He's a cop.
Yeah.
Every member of the Underworld faction, or of the Underworld category.
Yeah, I mean, I think this would probably be like specific to LaRose. So like everybody hates the blue coats in general, but maybe like LaRose was in charge of like taking down or like working against one particular faction.
I was thinking Lord Skurlock too, whoever just clicked on that.
Yeah, that was me. And I liked the name. And then when I opened it, I was like, even better. So Lord Skurlock says, an ancient noble said to be immortal like the Emperor, possibly a vampire or a sorcerer obsessed with the occult. And I kind of think that would be an interesting person to have on our bad side.
Yeah, the fun thing with Lord Skurlock is like this is the only individual in the faction list.
Yeah.
This guy is so powerful, he counts as a faction.
And a tier 3 faction, nonetheless.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so -1 with Lord Skurlock is a fun one to start off with, like, with a bit of an enemy. Excellent. Yeah, that might be like maybe LaRose is like really digging into Lord Skurlock's past, because there's the rumors like this person's immortal, huh?
I like to imagine the investigation was literally just like being slightly too close to Lord Skurlock's territory, and he's like, well, I perceive that as a slight. You're going down.
I want to get to know the Dimmer sisters.
Oh yeah, they're a cool option.
Housebound recluses with an occult reputation? What?
They're a good option for like getting kind of like arcane goods.
It's like two Emily Dickinsons.
Mm-hmm. So I think, do you want to go back to the friends and rivals everyone has? Because like now that you know some stuff about the factions, then you can kind of think where they fit into the world. So like your friends and rivals don't necessarily need to be in a particular faction, but like they are going to come up. They like your friend is going to like be able to help you with scores, and your rival is going to try to interfere. So it is likely that they're tied to a faction, but now you know a bit more and have some more context to really figure that out. So like all of the playbooks have their own names to write in. Like I know Tess, you were talking about like possibly having a write in, but they do have like some starting names and suggestions there.
So I had marked I had marked a friend and a rival that I liked the sound of, and now I think some possibly interesting connections, although they're both in the same category. So maybe, well, let me propose them and we'll see if people like them. Milos's rival I had marked as Celia, an information broker, who I'm thinking might be a crooked or like corrupt cipher. So cipher who has broken their sacred oaths, and who maybe I double crossed, or who double crossed me sometime in the past. And then the other one is named August, a master architect, who sort of obviously would slot into the foundation, the kind of top dog of the labor and trade, the like construction industry, I guess. But I'm wondering if there's anywhere like more interesting to put him.
Well, what's your relation with August?
I think I kind of, maybe that's a better way to go about it. I kind of imagine them as like distant peers or former peers, maybe both taught at the same university or something. But as an architect, August has an actual practice that brings him money, which Milos, as a poetry professor, did and does not. No shade to poetry professors, whom we all love. But I see them as maybe like former peers that way. So
I'm kind of picturing that like they were in one of these like intro poetry classes. Like just a passing interest.
100%, yeah.
And so didn't specialize in it, and so it's actually successful. I do enjoy those contacts.
I think Gabe is gonna choose Marlene, a pugilist, as his friend. Let's say that he and Marlene like to fight together. Maybe they're punching buddies. Maybe there's some romantic interest there. But Gabe kind of wants a better life for them both.
Okay.
And then so he's turned into crime. The rival will be Grace, an extortionist. And I think I'm going to have Grace be Gabe's sister, who is kind of into doing things a little bit more like in the assassin-y way or the Bravos way, as opposed to where Gabe has found himself now with Mar.
So why is your sister a rival? What happened with that fallout?
I need to think about it for like 2 seconds.
Because like mechanically, like you lose a die when your rival interferes. So like this does imply that there was a fallout.
I think she's always been in the crimes game, And Gabe has Gabe has been like on the up and up for like a considerable amount of time. He's just been doing like honest bodyguarding work, but it's just not paying enough, or something is just the benefits aren't there, no healthcare, etc. So he's just like turning to crimes, but because he hasn't like reached out to assist. I don't know. She thinks that he's like higher than thou normally, and then now that he's doing this stuff, she's just kind of like resenting him for it, I guess.
Maybe like that kind of thing of like Gabe hasn't even had that attitude, but she's perceiving that and projecting.
Yeah. Yes.
That's classic siblings for you. Okay. Cool. I love those.
So from this corner of the world, I'm going to bring you a better sibling relationship.
Yeah.
So I decided that Nerix, the prostitute, is Ellery's sister, who does stuff like courtesan with like rich and powerful to gain information and becomes our informant. And then the rival / enemy is going to remain Basil Baz, the gang leader of Lamplax?
Yeah, Lamplax. The former Lamplighters Guild.
Yes. They went on a date many years ago and didn't work out. He turned out to be super misogynistic and does terrible things to my people. So, hate him.
Excellent. I have so many notes to type up.
So I am going to pick one from the list, one that I'm making up there. Rosalind Kellis, who is a noble, is my friend there. She's my good contact. And I think she and I are on again, off again lovers. I think it's very much like actually, I think it was like kind of assumed like in the upper echelon prior to me losing status and the tragedy that is Princess Mirena's life, that like Rosalind and Princess Mirena were going to get married and like connect two parts of the culture, and like marriage of business, but also marriage of like there's some passion there. I think we love to hate each other and hate to love each other, like kind of that situation, but ultimately we'll all work out for the good. And then I invented Yatricia, who is an Eruvian diplomat, and I think that Yatricia is like a cousin of mine, and ultimately kind of in line for the throne, but like loosely, like there's some extrapolation to get to the throne there. And I actually think that I suspect that when we crashed the boat, that the lighthouse was not working, or was conveniently turned off for the moment, so we had to crash. And I think Yatricia had something to do with that, because she's trying to like eliminate every member of my line to become the queen herself.
That's juicy.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I assume. But that is what I think Mirena thinks Yatricia is like real bad news.
So circling back to Rosalind, you said on again, off again. When are you at the moment?
I don't know if it's ever like actually specified if it's ever on or off. It's just kind of like we hook up once in a while, like nothing ever really defined. I think if society is concerned, we are off again. Okay. Because I have lost all my wealth because it, is at the bottom of the ocean. So everyone is like, you're off again. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but we're still going to like hang out and like, I'll still come over. And I definitely use her knowledge of like parties and stuff to know where to hit, like who's not going to be home.
Okay. This is good to know. Just gals being pals.
Classic gals being pals,
So my friend connection is going to be Stasia, I think is how you pronounce that. And she's an apothecary. I'm thinking what happened is that I was just a tinkerer, a mechanic, essentially, of Sparkcraft creations. But also doing the alchemical stuff. Stasia was my work colleague, my connection that I'd go to for whatever materials I needed. And then tying into that, my other thought was a colleague, but is now my rival, is Eckerd, the body snatcher, the corpse thief, because I think that in the tradition of all alchemists, tinkerers, I probably went a little mad scientist and was trying to create a hull is what they're called in this game, which is like the automaton body that is fueled by a spirit. So I was working with him to get corpses that still had the ghost attached, that the ghost hadn't dissipated yet. But he double-crossed me, and he was bringing me people that weren't actually dead yet. So I accidentally created a handful of hollows, which are the living bodies without spirits in them. And they were loose on the city for maybe a hot minute, which ruined my reputation and business practice. And it's all this guy's fault. So
Wick, no!
It was it was a deeply humbling experience. So now Wick is a little bit more subdued on the mad scientist scale, but not completely off of it yet.
Oh, and I'm sure the spirit wardens hate you.
Yes.
We're over here being Scooby-Doo, and Wick is like, I'm gonna commit an ethics violation. Like, oh.
It was an accidental ethics violation, mostly.
Excellent. Okay, so we got that. So then the other thing with your characters, before we go back to like the crew contact, is your vice purveyor. So now that you have an idea of like where your lair is in Silkshore and that you frequent Brightstone for like your hunting grounds, where do you like to go to indulge your vice?
I mean, I already mentioned that I think Milos's is this tailoring shop, and I imagine just from the sound of it that they're probably in Brightstone. I think that's where he hangs out to get all his luxury goods.
Yeah, Dunridge and Son says night market, but I think also like the Brightstone works for it too.
I missed that was specified. No, it can be either.
Yeah, either one works. We can put Brightstone.
So Ellery moonlight as a gondolier with the app Leafed.
This is the second first game of the season that somebody has tried to work apps into on our podcast.
I mean, the phones aren't really a thing here. Like, this is very much set in like a early and like a late industrial kind of world. Like, electric lights were a recent thing.
It's not a phone app. It's a pigeon-based.
There you go.
The original Twitter. Uh-oh.
Oh my god. Okay, so your obligation is just like you like have a side career gondoliering?
Yes. Because I want to support my fellow refugee. So whenever there's a pigeon that land on me and was like, somebody needs a ride, then I have to go.
Oh my god, you're a Lyft driver.
Oh my god. Okay, so like the thing with the vice purveyors is that like you generally have like a specific person that this ties back to. So who do you have that like I guess also like maybe like works for Leafed or is like a person that you're really trying to support with this?
I think I'm trying to support my sister, the informant lyrics here.
Okay.
Let's go with Goober. I'm gonna take Todd's suggestion. Because why not?
Goober. Goddamn.
Goober's the name of the pigeon.
Is It's just one pigeon, one extremely busy pigeon.
It's a very active pigeon.
There's a rumor that Goober used to be a person, like who like ran the company, but like got transformed into a pigeon and is now just like running around.
Goober's actually the head pigeon who's possessed by a ghost and as intelligent as a person. We're rapidly breaking this game.
No, there can be some fun with that. I have some interesting node stuff to figure out.
I think my vice purveyor will be Grist, boxing at the docks.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely like put that under your vice and purveyor.
Mine is going to be Harvale Brogan, who owns the Centralia. I'm going to call it Centralia. Who owns the Centralia Club in Brightstone. I think that's both a like I love to go party there, and like by party I mean sit and be stared at because I'm elegant and beautiful. But also I think that's where Rosalind and I like meet for our clandestine affairs.
Okay. Yeah, and that one is actually tied to a faction, so that is very interesting.
Is it a faction we already have a negative relationship with? Because that feels appropriate.
No. So the Circle of Flame, their headquarters is the Centralia Club. So that's the one that's a secret society of antiquarians and scholars that is a cover for extortion, graft, vice, and murder.
Classic.
Yep. Cool. I like that. Yeah, so like definitely put the purveyor in your sheet. So then Wick.
I think that I'm going to do Averick, who is a powder dealer in Barrowcleft.
Okay. I guess really the other stuff that I had like questions for, which I'm just gonna like go through like these questions just so you have them on your mind. Like in particular with the characters, like what is something that you want from your character arc? And like with any of these questions, if you don't know the answer right now, that's fine. You can think on it and like come back to it and let us know. Are there any particular factions that you're interested in that like haven't been brought up yet? And then like how much does the group want to like really lean into the magic and spookiness, especially considering that you don't have a whisper? Because like it is always present, but I kind of view it as like a dial that we can like turn up or down depending on how much people want to lean into it.
I think since we don't have a whisper this time, I feel like we had the magic scale pretty high during our one shot. So I feel like having it down to like a lower setting would be fine for this group. Does that work for, I don't know, like that, again, just my thoughts here.
I mean, I think at least 2 characters have ghost-related special abilities.
I can talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So they're welcome to hang out with us.
I think maybe a medium on the ghost dial.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like maybe like our average mission doesn't really deal with ghosts, but like repercussions may get bigger and bigger and get us involved in the supernatural. Like we don't typically lean into like stealing from or selling to ghosts, but there's no reason that might not happen.
Yeah, I don't think like with hawkers that kind of goes into like what kind of items you like sell. Of like, okay, maybe it's not so much of like spooky arcane stuff.
I have a question that might be unrelated or might be related. So what is the status that ghosts have in this world? Like, are they just walking around like normal presence and we just engage with them if we can? Like, you know, do they just walk into a store and buy a drink if, you know?
No, they're definitely a bit like malevolent. People try to use them for their own ends. Like the spirit wardens actively go out and like the spirit wardens like actively go out to try to collect the bodies. That way more ghosts are not made. Pretty much anybody can like attune to some level to the ghost field, but like the majority of places like out on the street, you are probably not going to run into a ghost, but like as a crew in the underworld, like you are going to run into some haunted places and like people in some circumstances.
Yeah, on the ghost style topic, I was going to say I did put one of my action dots in a tune, so I do like the idea of it being a thing that is sort of there occasionally or as a low level thing, but I agree that it feels like it's not something that we make part of our like main business as a crew.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So then, like, I think Ran, you had mentioned being interested in the Dimmer sisters. Are there like any other factions that people were particularly interested in? Not that like in a, exactly like how we want to bring them in, but just like, hey, this looks kind of neat.
I thought also that the Grey Cloak might also come into play, like on the spectrum of our dealings with that particular side of the society.
Related to Mirena's vice, now that you've mentioned the Centralia Club, I think perhaps without realizing that they're a front for extortion and murder and all that sort of thing, I feel like Milos would be interested in their front as a like secret society social club.
I think the sailors seem pretty interesting from the labor and trade section, and there's also another person in the underworld, the Ulf Ironborn.
Yeah, I forgot about him.
He just wants to fight, so he seems really interesting.
Yeah, like I definitely can't guarantee that like all of these will come up, but like it's interesting to see like what you as players are intrigued by to like try to bring them in.
Of course. I mean, there's also like the Church of Ecstasy. What?
Church of the Ecstasy of the Flesh.
Classic. The Hive feels like it might be appropriate for us to bump into once in a while. If they are like the most respected of the salespeople, basically. And we are like, we're coming in here to sell some stuff in your area. And they're like, no, the fuck you're not. Go home.
Wick is really interested in following what the Sparkrights are doing because they're kind of the leaders in Sparkcraft technology. And also has an insane amount of guilt about the Horde because definitely whatever hollows Wick made are part of the Horde now. So just violently avoids them whenever the topic comes up.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I'd forgotten about the Horde. That's so good.
Oh, I was gonna bring up two different groups. One is the Scotlander refugees, which, we might encounter because of me. And then I'm, like, unrelated to that, I'm very interested in the Weeping Lady.
Yeah.
Which since we're not really the shadows anymore, it wouldn't have to be totally out of character.
Yeah, like there are so many factions and there's no way to touch on like all of them, especially for a short group. But this is very helpful to see like what groups to bring in, especially for like what starting situation to throw you all the wolves in. So then the other question I really had, which like, again, this is one that like you might want to think on before really answering, since you did like just make these characters. Are there like any particular things you really want to explore with your character, like any particular arc?
Well, Mirena would like to be noble again. Her goal is like, we make enough money that I can like marry Rosalind and become, okay.
This is just an instinct, but I was going to say I think something that I'd be interested in for Milos is him developing like I see him as very much a like solitary academic type, and I think it would be interesting for him to like develop or like find himself to his own surprise actually caring about somebody, which like could be romantic, but I don't think has to be, and might be more interesting if it's not. But like, this guy who is kind of alone and has like friends, but not really anybody that he's close to, like finding himself feeling close to somebody for the first time.
Okay, I like that.
We're telling a love story with crimes.
Again, it doesn't have to be romantic, but it could be. I'm not opposed. I don't know where.
How do we feel about romance
go
between
yet.
player characters? Is that something people are okay with?
As long as both players are consenting, I don't see why not.
Yeah,
We started out with Blades in the Dark, but now we're playing Monster Hearts.
Maybe the real crimes were the hearts we stole along the way.
No, Wick, we didn't mean that
if the
literally.
slogan is "Be Gay, Do Crime," if the slogan is "Be Gay, Do Crime," then I don't see why we can't include more "Be Gay" in the "Be Gay, Do Crime."
Exactly, Wick. Exactly.
Well, the rest of us will be making our business to find Milos, the love of his life, right?
This is rapidly spiraled out of my control, but I'm okay with it.
Or the friendship of his life.
We're literally all trying to matchmake Milos at this point.
Hey, listen, there's also like the whole system is set up to be like, you want found family? Here's found family. So there's multiple ways.
Mhm.
I think my only character aspiration right now is that Wick is probably in an interesting balancing act between the want to do mad science and morals. So I think that probably being in this group is going to be what helps ground them at least a little bit more towards morals than mad science, because they have recently learned that actions have consequences. Wow.
What a concept.
Yeah. So hanging out with people that they will probably grow to like will help be like, maybe I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I'm going to do some crimes and maybe get some morals along the way.
It could happen.
I think Ellery just wants to make a lot of money and buy... what's her name again? Well, she can't remember her sister's name. Buy her sister some status and out of the life of a courtesan. So maybe she can just go back to live a life of feeding goats or something. But if ultimately this becomes a new family, that would be great too.
It does seem like most of our characters are like, we want money so that we can have a better life with the people we love. Except for Milos, who's like, I want money so that I can potentially have a love life in the future.
I'm not sure he's even aware of that. That's more of a me aspiration for him. I feel like Milos at the start is kind of just like, I want money.
And that's it.
Full
Totally.
stop.
Don't ask any more questions.
To be fair, I don't think Mirena really cares about the love life either. I think she wants money and love is a way to get it.
Oh, no.
I think like she likes Rosalind, but I think she's marrying for, the paycheck. 100%.
And then, yeah. Dex, was there anything you really wanted for Gabe?
I think Gabe is looking for the money to give him and Marlene a better life, potentially. So that's currently his thing. He doesn't want a lot, just like enough.
Okay, I like that.
For my note-taking purposes, can we all just go and do a quick summary of our characters really quick? Like, now that we've, established all the connections and stuff. Because my brain is just not going to work unless I get it all down in some capacity.
Yeah, I think, if everyone could go and, do a full, introduction to your character, since we did do it so piecemeal.
I'll start. So Milos Jeduin uses he, him, and the alias Needle. And he is a former professor of Hadrathi poetry who has fallen on hard times ever since his credentials were debunked. And he's a handsome Severosi man who always dresses in impeccable, elegant clothing and has long braided hair.
And what playbook is Milos?
That's a great fundamental question. Milos is the spider.
I can go next. I am Princess Mirena Alonda Gracielle Valerio of the Grayfire line. I am currently serving as our team's lurk, which means I'm a little bit sneaky, stealthy. I learned that sneaking in and out of the palace when I was a young girl. Getting out of the palace was much harder than getting in, because, quite frankly, our guards were strong enough that they would just kill anyone who got in. So it wasn't about stopping them from getting in. It was just about clearing them out once they did. I come from Aruvia, which is a desert palace or desert kingdom to the south of Duskvol. My dearest friend in Duskvol is Rosalind Kellis. Rosalind and I were previously engaged to be married, but then after the tragedy that befell me with the Moon's Crown, when all of my riches were sunk to the bottom of the sea, her parents retracted our betrothal, and now we have to meet in secret at the Centralia Club, much to the chagrin of my evil cousin, Yatricia, who is 11th in line, though I think she may be up to 9th or 10th at this point for the crown. And I do believe that accident with the Moon's Crown is less of an accident due to Yatricia's involvement. And I have recently hired our good friend Gabe as a bodyguard, or I'm not sure how recently, but prior to the accident, Gabe was my bodyguard.
I think this is a perfect time for me to come in here. My name is Gabe. I'm our resident cutter for our crew, and also my alias is Gabe. There's not much else that goes into that. I've got a pretty big beard, and I'm a beefy boy, and I've got brown skin and green eyes. I'm from the Dagger Isles area, and I formerly was bodyguarding for multiple ships that traveled through the area until I took on the contract to guard Princess Marmar on our final fatal voyage. In the city of Duskvol, I have one very good friend, Marlene, a pugilist. We hang out together, and I'd like to provide him a better life. And I've got a rather vindictive elder sister named Grace, who doesn't really enjoy my recent fall into crime, since she views that as her territory. And so that's me.
So I will be playing Wick, whose pronouns are they, them. That is the only name they have given, whether it's their true name or an alias. They are a Tikarosi person, ? With a waxy complexion and ginger hair that makes them kind of candle looking, let's say. Wick is the resident leech, which is kind of easy to tell by the Sparkcraft prosthetic arm that they have. And Wick just came off of a pretty bad run-in with a lot of things that Wick ought not to have been tinkering in. So joining this crew is much more of a sense of resolving some problems and lying low. And if crime is the best way to do that, so be it.
So my character is Ellery Crow, which might be an alias. Well, it is the alias because there's no other name similarly to Wick. Look, she is ethnically ambiguous, aka Acrosian passing. Is that what we call Acros people?
Yeah, Acrosian.
Acrosian passing. She is relatively tall and slim and a bit androgynous. But because she spends the majority of her time disguising as other people, we're not super sure what she originally looks like. Except that she has Pale skin. Her nose is slightly crooked with a weird scar on the side. She walks with a limp and holds a cane. But is that real? Question mark. Heritage is Scotland. She used to be a inspector, so everybody hated her in the beginning, obviously, for obvious reasons. She also moonlight as a gondolier for Goober the pigeon when she's not working with her crew. Her closest contact is Nerix, the courtesan, and her sworn enemy is Baz, the gang leader. She can talk to ghosts. What else do I need to tell you? That's it, right?
Yeah, I think that's about it. I also realized that we left off a very important question with your crew. What's its name? What are y'all called?
The Moo Cow?
Like we have a name
has to
for
be
like
different from the ship,
but like, what's the name of the crew?
I was going to suggest something along the lines. I was going to suggest that we try to incorporate cow into it somehow. The golden cow, the golden calves.
The burglars?
Get
The bovine burglars.
I'm trying to think of like words with cow in it.
The cowlick?
Is cow trap a thing?
Oh, Milos! What the golden calves? That's so bad good.
I don't get it.
Oh, it's an old Bible reference.
This is so funny.
The only cow word that is coming to my mind is cowards, but I don't think that's the vibe for us this time.
The not cowards. Wait, question. Actually, maybe it'll help if we know, what are we selling? Did we establish this?
Yeah, because there's a whole like, what is your preference with being hawkers? Because like hawkers are like vice dealers, they execute product procurement, covert sales, shows of force, and social events. So it says like sales territory, and like you pick a preference: sales, supply, show of force, or socialize. What's your go-to?
I feel like either sales or socialize. I don't really know what socialize means in this context.
Neither does Milos.
I feel like sales is probably the one we talked about the most when we were having the general discussion. But I feel like there could be like an element of like, we infiltrate parties or infiltrate social events to sell there and be like, oh, hey, you want to buy a gold watch? But like we're at a party where everyone is already wearing a gold watch, you know? That's,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like it doesn't lock you into like if you pick sales, you're only doing sales. That's just kind of like your more specialization and what you're like more practice at and a bit of a preference. But like all of them can easily come up.
So, if since clothing is something that's come up several times, and there are groups that are like red sashes, could we do something that was like cowls, like the hooded, the something cowls, like Silver Cowl was my first thought, the Silver Cowls or something like that. So we're kind of like fancy, and then also if we do get that group tailor, then we can all have like matching outfits.
I like the Silver Cowls.
I'm in for Silver Cowls. I think that's a cool idea.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cool. I can't think of anything else that I really needed to bring up. Oh yeah, Lord Skurlock calls y'all the Moo Cows.
People just moo at us in the streets. Can you imagine a centuries-old vampire? Just like mooing at us. Like the level of petty he has to have.
What do you think sustained him for all these years? Pettiness kept him alive.
Dungeons and Drama Nerds is produced by Todd Backus, Percival Hornak, and Nicholas Orvis, and it's mixed and edited by Anthony Sertel Dean. Our Blades in the Dark campaign features Elliot Peterson as GM, TP Huth as Princess Mirena, Alonda, Gracielle, Valerio of the Grayfire line, Whitney, Lehn, Meltz as Wick, Nicholas Orvis as Milos, Jeduin, Phan as Gabe, and Ren Shah as Ellery Crow. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at DNDramaNerds. Check out cast bios on our website, dungeonsanddramanerds.com, and tune in next week for another episode of Dungeons and Drama Nerds.